Hi, welcome back to Now TV Canada, and I am just on YouTube channel. Same day as the first video on the announcement of what happened to Gene Hackman, his wife, and their dog. Um, Foul play, absolutely. So I'm pretty upset, but I'm very grateful that I was blessed with the ability to write this trilogy. So I have something to do to share. In my loss and grief and confusion of all of this with all of you. And I hope that it helps. So I'm going to read the second segment, February 27th, 2025, after we just found out about this suspicious thing that just got announced to everybody all at once, putting us all in shock yesterday when it happened. Crazy. So we're going to do this together as we wait for the results on tests from experts over what happened when they went and found these three people, well, two people and a dog dead. So, it's really sad because Lex Luthor doesn't have a history of committing those kinds of heinous crimes. I'm shocked because I think it's almost prophetic that I wrote this trilogy and finished it in 2016, maybe perhaps because of what's just happened now. And so it's meant to be that I am meant to share all of this with you guys as we go through this together. Confused over what's just happened and the results to which we may or may not ever actually fully understand the truth of, because we don't live in the most honest society anymore. So you just never know if what you're reading is true or if we're just getting half the answers when they give us anything at all. So this part here, he's now been let out of prison. Well, he's been approved for parole. So now he's leaving the parole room. And I'm going to pick up from there. Sorry, like surgery-wise, I'm still in a lot of pain. So you're stuck with me from this angle. I can't even get up against the wall because all the stitching and the staples on my left side. Difficulty with breathing. To try to step against the wall and read this would be hard. Okay, so video 2, part 2 of the Lex Luthor segment to the Supergirl movie, just the first one, part 1, the beginning. It was a pleasant stroll through the hallway, realizing that it was for the last time. Lex almost wanted to start singing Song of the South. Mr. Bluebird on my shoulder. It's the truth. It's natural. Everything is satisfactory. Instead, he contained it to a small chant beneath his breath, as he was reminded in memory of the tar baby, the stick, and the little napkin tied to the piece of wood, as he and the black man were heading down the muddy road, giving away, of course, his age with the memory of such a historical story told in his life so many years ago. Lifting up his cane, he was acknowledging the entire prison staff, all watching with a sort of relief on behalf of his freedom, in a silent understanding that if there's one thing most good prison guards hate to see happen, it's watching prisoners with good rapport on the inside and a history of good behavior like the one Lex Luthor had die on the inside of the prison walls in which they come into and leave with their freedom for 25 or 30 years. Because they get paid to go there. It's their job. The ones that noted his cane raised one of their hands in acknowledgement back of his old age. Freedom. Not to get too excited after all. All the guards there were well aware of the Lord of the Underworld's history. So there is much to be hesitant still. As he stopped his walk in front of the detaining release window, Lex Luthor says, I can't believe you still have my wallet, keys, watch, pocket change, and certs. You know those candies, old certs, in a brown envelope from 33 years ago, back there somewhere. As a big smile breaks out on his face, looking straight at the ordinary, not overly excitable guard who does this job day in and day out, year after year. I'm wondering, actually, do those certs candies still exist? I haven't seen them in Canada in a while, but I don't buy them. They were good. Strong mints. Anyways, the guard on the inside of the window says, "Just a minute, Luthor. It's going to take me a couple of minutes to find that box back here." Understandable, considering, like himself, no one else on the staff in-house thought he was going to get released today either. But to both of their surprises, Lex Luthor is not the most popular name in the world, so finding his double LL box of goodies was not but a minute or two before the guard was once again at the window. He quickly undid the string on the envelope and opened it. Putting his hand inside, he pulled out one item at a time and slipped it under the faceplate, separating him from Lex Luthor germs. Lex Luthor says, "When did they put this thing in?" he said as he raised a fist and knocked on the plexiglass. "I can remember coming through, going in, no window, no glass, nothing but the guard standing on the other side of the counter with bars that had the option of being brought to the counter and locked into place." Guard says, "Well, Lex, you will find a lot of things have changed out there since you came in through these doors 33 years ago. Well, technically he was brought over the wall with Otis by Superman. And the progress of security systems and its workers is just one of those minor areas that have changed out in the world. This here plexiglass divide has been in place now for about 12 or 13 years. We were actually late on the list of prisons to get such upgrades. Yes, the older guards were so used to things being a little more relaxed that perhaps they should be, because of the posing threat of bullets or risks of being stabbed, etc. They should be relieved that they have it. So they've now upgraded here to this idea, which I don't personally know if it's really any better at getting things done faster, because the little slip thing underneath kind of gets in the way of the stuff you're trying to get to people, even if you're trying to, deflect bullets and things. While talking, the guard undid the string around the brown envelope and stuck his hand in. And what he pulled out, he slipped under the window in a little silver-like box below the plexiglass. The first item out of the envelope was his wallet. Then he pulled out keys, and yes, believe it or not, the unused certs, along with that pocket change and watch he remembered handing over when he was just being brought in. Lex put his watch on right away and chuckled with glee as he looked at the beautiful artifact back in place where it should be. And then he looked through his wallet to see there his ID. Some of it expired, of course, including his credit cards. And he didn't remember having any bills in his wallet. But when he looked through his wallet further, he did indeed find that he was not entirely broke, that he had actual cash bills in there. His thought immediately focusing on the ability to phone a cab to drive him to civilization from the first payphone he discovers upon his walk after exiting those last gates. Once everything was in place, as he chuckled at his old certs package, sniffing the top one before reclosing the tinfoil and throwing the package into his right pocket, he looked at the guard and said, "Well, if memory isn't mistaken, this is it. All I have to do now is sign on the dotted line somewhere on that clipboard that I see you have right there, and then I can turn and head for the final doors of my freedom." Smiling at this good news, the guard interrupted his thoughts of freedom as he acknowledged that it was indeed necessary to sign for all belongings that were just returned to him with this. The guard said, "Well, Mr. Luthor, before you head for that freedom, you might just want to know they've upgraded telephones. We now have this little item called cell phones." And he pulled his from his pocket and showed Lex what it looked like. Before going on to continue with saying, "So what I'm trying to say here is that you might be finding yourself walking a bit before you find a payphone anywhere. And as for the payphones themselves, the cost of a call has also gone up. It is now 50 cents a call, so you might want to use the one we have in the building if there is anyone you can phone after 33 years in prison to come and get you. Because I don't recollect you've really had any visitors while being on the inside." Lex Luthor says, 50 cents? Why, that's highway robbery. And are you certain there still is a payphone inside? As I have indeed, through my years on the inside, have heard of those technological advances, wonderful little items you call cell phones. I do indeed look forward to getting my first one. But for the moment, knowing where I can make that call I need, the one you just read my thought about wanting to make, where I can make it would indeed be a good thing to know. And the guard says, "Yes, just follow that little yellow line on the floor and it will take you right to a payphone." He finished taking the clipboard back and Lex signed it and watched him shake his head, accepting the instructions. Lex turned from the guard at the counter and the plexiglass window and looked down at the floor. And as the guard had just said, there was indeed a yellow line on the floor. Checking his pocket quickly to be certain he had 50 cents in his pocket, he then started his walk in the direction the yellow line told him to go, saying to himself, "Well, so much for that walk I wanted to take on the other side of gates. Better make that call now, as I was just instructed." Once the call was made, Lex decided that instead of being showy, he's opted for a wonderful cab ride back into civilization for the culture shock he was preparing himself for, including the missing Twin Towers, which was eminent that once he located his counterpart Otis, that visiting was definitely on his list of things to do, because that Twin Tower thing happened when he was in prison, right? Once the phone call was made, he turned with a last breath and said to himself, "Okay, old man, old bones, let's get a move on it." Next he found himself in front of doors that he had no one peering over him or opening for him. Upon the outside he took a wonderful deep breath and headed toward the gates, the ones that the guards above would open once they could see that he was there ready for his final steps to freedom. Even before he reached those gates, he was witnessing them open them for him. He almost felt special, important rather, in a way, not having to wait at the doors till they were open. When he reached them, sure enough, all he had to do was walk through them to his complete freedom. Once on the other side of the gates, he turned to watch them close and looked down at his feet and thought, "Come on, feet, don't fail me now. Do a little dance for Daddy now." With the sound of the prison doors final shut behind him, his feet started to move this way and that way, and he broke out into that song and dance he was holding back that whole time he was in there. "Lex Luthor, you're brilliant. You old man, you. What you said in that parole room today, with those wet behind the ears new and young parole board workers, was so convincing that even if I were a member of that board in there, I too would have been certain to release you today indeed. Now, we must organize the great task and deeds in front of us. There is so much work to do, and so much to plan to begin what has been waiting for this day, all starting with keeping my underground haven up to date with the world for me to return to. Remind myself to give me a little loyal worker bees, to give them some tips." So his little loyal worker bees that have been taking care of things while he's been away, he's going to give them some, extra help for that. And then he's thinking, nah, maybe not. Anyways, he thought with a smile as that cab he phoned finally arrived and he got into the car and closed the door and said to the driver, who asked him as soon as he got in, "Where to?" And Lex Luthor says, "Home, driver, home." And he sat back with a large smile on his face, getting settled in for the long ride in. Dug into his pocket, pulled out the certs, opened it up, and thought, "What the hell? I've lived this long, I think it's safe to take my chances," and popped one into his mouth, and then returned to his thoughts about his current pleasant situation. Be another end scene section. So, like, his underground haven, everybody would know, like Metropolis, would still be there. And he'd still have people that would be doing, their little stuff that they do. That wouldn't stop. And so he'd still have money and all that other stuff hiding and waiting for him getting out. So that's why he just had to stay calm and wait. Now he has to figure out how to get Otis out, right? Anyways, next section. After a time of silence in the car, enjoying the panoramic view of the great city that's housed Lex for so many years, a place that will forever be home to him, a place he's watched grow from its infancy to the oh-so-great metropolis the world sees today, it suddenly occurred to him, the number 33, the significance, and he burst out into laughter, disrupting the driver, making steady progress to get him to his instructed destination. Lex Luthor says, "Ha ha ha ha, oh Christ, 33, I get it." Cab driver says, "What?" Trying to stay focused on his job. Lex Luthor says, "Oh, wait a minute, I'm sorry, that didn't come out right. I wasn't swearing. On the contrary, I was acknowledging the blessing. I have been incarcerated for 33 years, my friend. And well, Christ, God's Son, who died for our sins, so we could live, and sin some more. Ha ha ha. Well, in my world of thought, as it were, well, after 33 years, I was released. So it occurred to me that Jesus must have found something good to see in me and had a moment of weakness, so the parole board would agree that today was a good day to release me. Well, I guess I had to, I guess I had to try not to let anyone down. So now he's got to try, get the image right. Too funny. Just goes to show that even our main man, Jesus, even he has a sense of humor. The cab driver says, "Christ our King, yes, yes. Without him, I would not have life here in Metropolis and a cab job. Yes, I do, sir," that he meant to say that you should enjoy your freedom, enjoy your older years to be able to pass away outside those prison walls after surviving such a lengthy time inside prison walls. Very good, Jesus, and very good day for you, sir. Ha ha. Cab driver went back to silence and driving. Which language or culture he is, I don't know. You're talking Metropolis. It could be a multitude of different cab drivers from different places. I tried to get that part right. Lex Luthor says, "Quite right, my fine sir, quite right. On both those counts, your job and freedom in the world north of the equator and my old age, quite right indeed." Lex chuckled a few more times, shaking his head in a full smile at this funny little discovery before going back to the thoughts of what he would do first as soon as he gets in the door of his underground lair. So I think we'll leave it there for the end of section 2. Because he's got to go home now. So we'll leave that for another discovery. I'm going to get this up for you guys now to follow along as we remember Gene Hackman together through my videos as I recover from my surgery and record them all for you. Thanks for watching. I'm in shock still like everybody else. Yeah, so let's just wait for the investigative results. Like, if you know stuff about the history of Gene Hackman's situation and his retirement stuff, it's almost suspicious to, like, think that maybe some part of what happened back then, came full around now. Like, somebody's like, "Oh, I'm tired of paying out," or something. Let's hope maybe it was just a burglar or something random. Well, that's bad too. Sorry, I shouldn't say that either. It's just, I can't. I wanted him to read this. Like, now I just want to raise him up. Okay, Gene, rise. So, yeah, this is just not okay. I'm just glad I have this to share with everybody. Okay, I'm gonna go, guys. Load this. Peace, love, joy. And let's hope that it's solved. Like, if there's somebody to be arrested, that they get arrested. Okay. I'd like to have one of the dogs. Superwoman. Signing out.